No one came. When Earth's sun began to die, the galaxy watched, and did nothing. Telescopes across 1,000 alien worlds confirmed it. The yellow star called Sol had entered a violent quantum collapse. In less than 7 months, it would explode inward and burn the entire system to ash. 8 billion humans were about to disappear. And the Galactic Assembly voted to let it happen. Inside the vast chamber of the Assembly, representatives from powerful civilizations floated, hovered, or stood in silence. Some were beings of light held inside magnetic fields. Others were massive creatures with crystalline skin and 6 glowing eyes. A few looked almost human, but their eyes held centuries of cold logic. The vote had been clear. Intervention. Denied. Humanity lacks strategic value, said the Terran Dominion speaker in a voice like grinding metal. They are divided. They fight among themselves. They have no advanced starfaring capacity. They are inefficient. They are creative, one smaller delegate argued. Creativity does not justify resource expenditure, came the reply. And that was the end of it. Earth was officially abandoned. But the galaxy had miscalculated something. On Earth, humanity did not collapse into panic. They did not riot. They did not beg. They worked. Within days, every major government released the same truth. The sun was dying. There would be no rescue. No miracle fleet was coming. The world braced for chaos. Instead, something ancient woke up inside the human spirit. The Global Emergency Coalition formed in under 48 hours. Countries that had been rivals for decades opened their borders and shared data freely. Military satellites were repurposed to track solar fluctuations. Billionaires liquidated fortunes overnight to fund research programs. Universities merged into one massive planetary network of scientists. Humanity had been told they were not advanced enough. So they decided to become advanced enough. Dr. Elena Voss stood in a laboratory in Berlin, staring at equations projected across a curved glass wall. She was a quantum field specialist, and she had not slept in 37 hours. "It's impossible," her assistant whispered. Elena shook her head. "No. It's just never been attempted at this scale." The idea was insane. If they could not move 8 billion people off Earth, then maybe they could move Earth itself. The plan was called Project Atlas. It involved building planetary-scale gravitational engines, massive orbital structures designed to push Earth slowly out of the dying star's kill radius. No species had ever attempted something so reckless. No species had ever needed to. Meanwhile, alien observers watched quietly. Long-range monitoring stations detected unusual industrial activity around Earth. Orbital construction. Massive energy spikes. Debris fields forming strange geometric patterns. "They are accelerating space infrastructure development," reported an analyst from the Volari Collective. "For evacuation?" asked the Assembly chair. "No," the analyst replied. "For propulsion." Silence spread across the chamber. Propulsion, of what? Of their planet. Back on Earth, the oceans churned as kilometer-wide platforms were constructed in orbit. Entire cities volunteered their populations to work in rotating shifts. Engineers from Japan collaborated with programmers in Nigeria. Fabrication plants in Brazil operated 24 hours a day. There were arguments. There were disagreements. But there was no surrender. In Mumbai, a welder named Arjun Rao worked on engine housing segments, knowing he might never survive the ignition phase. When asked why he volunteered, he simply said, "Because someone has to." In Canada, a 12-year-old girl named Myra uploaded open-source stabilization code she wrote from her bedroom. It fixed a resonance flaw that had nearly doomed the project. In Argentina, farmers agreed to controlled atmospheric experiments that risked crop failures, because survival required data. Humanity was not unified by perfection. They were unified by purpose. 6 months passed in what felt like 6 minutes. The sun grew unstable. Solar flares ripped across space. Satellites burned out. The sky shimmered with unnatural auroras. Project Atlas was incomplete. It would have to be enough. On the day of ignition, every human on Earth knew it. There were no official speeches. No dramatic countdown broadcast worldwide. Just a quiet message sent through every device on the planet. Hold on. In orbit, Elena Voss floated inside the control ring. Around her, screens displayed planetary metrics in real time. Gravitational anchors locked into place. Fusion cores hummed. If they miscalculated by even 0.3%, tectonic plates could fracture. Oceans could rise. The atmosphere could destabilize. Engine array ready, came the voice of Commander Idris Kale from Mission Control. Elena closed her eyes. Fire Atlas. The engines ignited. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Earth groaned. Mountains trembled. Waves surged. The planet shifted, just slightly, nudged by a force never before applied to an entire world. From deep space, alien observers saw it clearly. Earth moved. Not fast. Not dramatically. But measurably. They are actually pushing their planet, whispered one assembly member. Inside the chamber, calculations flashed across holographic displays. Earth's new trajectory would take it just outside the fatal collapse radius, if the engines held. Solar radiation surged violently. One engine platform exploded. Then another. But the others compensated. Human engineers rewrote algorithms mid-burn. Volunteers manually rerouted power lines inside orbiting stations while exposed to lethal radiation. They did not stop. After 11 terrifying hours, Atlas shut down. Earth drifted in a new orbit. Bruised. Damaged. But alive. 37 hours later, Sol collapsed. A violent stellar implosion swallowed the inner system in a storm of light and plasma. But Earth was just far enough away. The shockwave hit like a god's hammer. Atmospheric shields strained. Satellites shattered. But the planet held. When the radiation cleared, Earth still turned. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. They had voted to let humanity die. Instead, humanity had saved itself. And in doing so, they had done something no civilization had ever attempted. They had moved a world. Inside the Galactic Assembly, fear replaced indifference. Because species that refuse to die. Species that rewrite physics when cornered. Species that choose unity over extinction. Those are not weak species. Those are dangerous ones. But the story was not over. Because deep in the expanding debris field of the dead star, something ancient had awakened. And it had noticed what humanity had done. The galaxy thought the danger had passed. They were wrong. 3 weeks after Sol collapsed, something moved inside the expanding cloud of stellar debris. At first, alien sensors believed it was leftover radiation turbulence. Then the readings stabilized. It was not radiation. It was structure. A shape the size of a small moon began to unfold from the glowing remains of the dead star. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, folding and unfolding in patterns too complex to be natural. It had been hidden inside Sol for longer than most civilizations had existed. And humanity had woken it up. Inside the Galactic Assembly, alarms echoed across the chamber. Unknown construct detected. Origin, Sol debris field. Energy signature exceeds class extinction thresholds. The same species who had refused to help Earth now stared in silent horror. Is it a weapon? Someone asked. No, replied a Valari scientist, voice shaking. It is older than weapons. Older than most of us. On Earth, people were still celebrating survival. Cities were damaged but rebuilding. Oceans were calmer. The sky, though slightly dimmer without Sol's full brightness, glowed softly under artificial stellar mirrors humanity had deployed to regulate temperature. Dr. Elena Voss had just returned to Berlin when global observatories detected the object. She watched the projection in stunned silence. That wasn't there before, Commander Idris Kale said over secure channel. No, Elena whispered. It was sleeping. The object did not approach aggressively. It simply positioned itself between Earth and the dark void beyond. Then it transmitted a signal. Not in radio waves. Not in light pulses. It transmitted through gravity itself. The signal bent spacetime in patterned ripples that only advanced sensors could decode. Alien civilizations intercepted fragments first. The translation chilled them. Recognition confirmed. Threshold achieved. Custodianship validated. No one understood what it meant. Then the object changed direction. It began moving toward Earth. Panic spread across the galaxy. Emergency fleets were mobilized. Defense arrays powered on. The Terran Dominion activated war protocols. But they hesitated. Because the energy readings were beyond anything they could fight. On Earth, world leaders gathered in emergency session. Is it hostile? One asked. Elena studied the data carefully. The gravitational waves carried structure, not aggression. It's not attacking, she said slowly. It's observing. The object stopped 100,000 kilometers from Earth. Close enough to dwarf the Moon. Far enough to show restraint. Its surface shifted again. And then it did something no one expected. It projected images. Across every screen, every satellite feed, every device capable of display, humanity saw the same vision. Stars forming. Galaxies colliding. Civilizations rising and falling. Then a pattern emerged. In dozens of systems across cosmic history, stars had collapsed prematurely. Intelligent species had faced extinction. Most had begged for help. None had acted. None had survived. Except one. Earth. The vision shifted to Project Atlas. To engineers welding under radiation storms. To volunteers risking death in orbit. To children coding solutions from bedrooms. To nations cooperating despite history. The projection paused on one simple image. A planet pushing itself to safety. The gravitational signal translated again. Species designated, human. Qualification, self-salvation. Reward, granted. Silence fell over Earth. Silence fell over the galactic assembly. The object unfolded further, revealing vast interior chambers glowing with energy. Structures extended outward like petals of a metallic flower. New signals streamed across alien networks. It was broadcasting to the entire galaxy now. Observation. Humanity demonstrated collective survival through innovation. Assessment. Suitable for advancement. Directive. Transfer of knowledge. A beam of shimmering energy connected the object to Earth's upper atmosphere. Not destructive. Informational. Data began pouring into human satellites. Physics models beyond current understanding. Energy manipulation techniques that bent quantum limitations. Propulsion systems that did not rely on reaction mass. It was not just giving technology. It was giving understanding. Alien civilizations tried to intercept the stream. They failed. The signal was encoded specifically for human neural patterns. It responded to human mathematics, human logic, human creativity. Inside her lab, Elena felt her screens flood with equations she somehow understood instinctively. It was like someone had handed her the missing pages of a universal manual. "We're being upgraded," she breathed. Commander Kale stared at his tactical display. "Why us?" Elena thought back to the vision. "Because we didn't wait." The ancient construct shifted again, sending one final gravitational pulse. Designation updated. Humanity, custodians. Function, protectors of emerging civilizations. Then, slowly, the object began to dissolve. Its vast structure broke apart into streams of light that scattered across deep space, embedding themselves in distant stars like seeds. It had not been a weapon. It had been a test. A cosmic filter. Only species who saved themselves would be trusted to save others. In the galactic assembly, fear turned to realization. The humans they had dismissed as primitive were now holders of knowledge older than their empires. The Terran Dominion ambassador spoke quietly. "We misjudged them." The Valari scientist corrected him. "No. We misunderstood the rule." On Earth, celebrations were muted now. Not from fear. From awe. Humanity had survived extinction. And in doing so, they had been chosen. Within months, human scientists began applying the new knowledge. Clean energy grids replaced fossil systems entirely. Medical breakthroughs eliminated dozens of diseases. Spacecraft prototypes capable of crossing interstellar distances were constructed faster than anyone thought possible. But the most important change was not technological. It was philosophical. Humanity had learned something profound. The galaxy had turned away when they needed help. But the ancient construct had rewarded them not for begging, but for acting. And that lesson would shape everything that came next. Because somewhere, in another star system, another young civilization was staring at a dying sun. And this time, they would not be alone. The first distress signal came from a star 42 light-years away. It was weak, fragmented, desperate. Humanity detected it before anyone else. The signal came from a world orbiting a red giant star that was entering rapid collapse. The species there called themselves the Lumari. Their technology was advanced enough to understand their fate, but not advanced enough to escape it. They had sent signals into the void for help. And just like Earth once had, the galaxy debated. Inside the Galactic Assembly, arguments rose again. The cost is enormous. They are not strategically valuable. We cannot save every dying world. The same words, the same logic. But this time, humanity was present. Elena Voss stood as Earth's official representative. Beside her stood Commander Idris Kale, now head of the newly formed Human Interstellar Initiative. They listened quietly. Then Elena spoke. When our son died, you watched. The chamber grew still. You calculated the cost. You weighed the risk. You chose comfort over courage. No one interrupted her. We chose differently. We did not wait for rescue. We saved ourselves. And because of that, we were trusted with something greater. She activated a projection of the ancient construct's final transmission. Custodians. The word echoed across the chamber. Commander Kale stepped forward. We are not asking for your fleets. We are not asking for your resources. Humanity will handle this. Murmurs spread through the assembly. You, the Terran Dominion ambassador, asked carefully. Your species has had interstellar capability for less than 2 decades. Kale nodded. And in those 2 decades, we have solved energy scarcity. We have developed non-destructive gravity propulsion. We have eliminated planetary-scale climate instability. Imagine what we can do when lives are on the line. Back on Earth, the shipyards were already active. The first of the Atlas-class arcs drifted above the Pacific Ocean, massive and elegant. Unlike the crude planetary engines that once saved Earth, these ships were masterpieces of hybrid alien-human design. They did not burn fuel. They shaped space-time. Dr. Myra Chen, yes, the same girl who once uploaded stabilization code at 12 years old, now led propulsion research. At 29, she stood inside the Ark's command deck, staring at navigation charts. Distance to Lumari system, she asked. 42 light-years, replied her navigation officer. Estimated arrival time, 11 days. The Ark folded space and vanished. Across the galaxy, observers watched in stunned silence. 11 days later, humanity arrived. The Lumari homeworld was beautiful. Oceans of violet water shimmered under a swollen red sun. Towering crystalline cities glowed faintly as evacuation attempts failed one by one. The Lumari had elegant bodies made of flexible mineral structures. Their voices sounded like wind through glass. When the Atlas Ark appeared in orbit, panic spread across their communication networks. Unknown vessel. Unknown origin. Then a signal transmitted. Simple. Clear. We are humanity. We are here to help. The Lumari leadership hesitated. Why? Their prime resonator asked. Myra Chen responded personally. Because once, we needed help too. No negotiation. No demand for trade. No contract. Human engineers immediately began deploying orbital stabilization grids. Gravitational anchors locked into the Lumari planet's mantle. Energy fields wrapped around their star, slowing its collapse cycle just enough to buy time. It was not enough to save the star, but it was enough to save the people. Mass evacuation platforms formed in orbit. Human arcs worked beside Lumari vessels. Knowledge was shared freely. Engineers collaborated across species boundaries without ego. At one evacuation site, a Lumari child hesitated before boarding a human shuttle. Its crystalline body shimmered nervously. A human rescue worker knelt beside it. "It's okay," she said gently. "We've done this before." The child extended a delicate mineral limb. "Will our world die?" The human paused. "Yes. But you won't." The evacuation lasted 3 weeks. Not a single Lumari was left behind. When their red sun finally collapsed, the Lumari watched from the safety of orbiting arcs. They expected grief. They felt it. But they also felt something else. Hope. Back in the Galactic Assembly, silence filled the chamber once more. Humanity had done what the galaxy refused to do. Without hesitation. Without debate. Without profit. The Valari Collective spoke first. "We miscalculated the meaning of strength." The Terran Dominion ambassador lowered his head. "We believed power was measured in fleets." Elena Voss answered calmly. "Power is measured in what you choose to protect." Months later, the Lumari settled on a new world prepared by human terraforming teams. Cultural exchanges began. Scientific cooperation flourished. But the greatest change was invisible. Across the galaxy, younger civilizations began studying humanity's history. They saw a species that argued constantly, disagreed loudly, and made mistakes often. But when faced with extinction, they united. When offered power, they shared it. And when given the role of custodians, they accepted it without arrogance. One evening, Myra Chen stood on the observation deck of the Atlas Ark, looking out at a distant star field. Commander Kale joined her. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had panicked?" he asked. Myra smiled softly. "We probably would have gone extinct." Kale nodded. "The ancient construct, do you think it's still watching?" Myra looked at the stars. "I think it doesn't need to." Far across the cosmos, new stars continued to burn. Some would die too soon. Some civilizations would face impossible odds. But now, the galaxy had changed. Because once, when no one came to save them, humanity saved themselves. And when the universe noticed, it did not give them a throne. It gave them responsibility. And humanity proved something greater than strength. They proved that survival is impressive. But choosing to help others survive, that is legendary. And somewhere, in the quiet dark between galaxies, the seeds of the ancient construct shimmered faintly. Not as judges. Not as rulers. But as witnesses. Because the most powerful force in the universe was not technology. It was not energy. It was not even knowledge. It was a simple decision made by a fragile species on a small blue world. If no one else will help, we will.